And today I want to talk about some of the regrets I had since I started my software engineering careers. Number one on this list is being so attached to my mentor and tech lead. So when I first joined my company, I actually didn't know anything. Like, I was amazed on how little I knew about software engineering. What I had to do on a day-to-day basis at these fame level companies working on a 0 to 1 project was nothing like the school projects or the prior internships that I have ever experienced. It was a really steep learning curve that I learned a lot from, but also I felt very, very stressed because I didn't know like, oh, where to go. Like, they're so experienced, they're so good at what they're doing. Like, why am I doing it so slowly? But over time, as I'm asking them questions, I become more comfortable with the codings. Like, I also became a lot better because the fact that I was able to learn and observe someone who's such a master at whatever they were doing. And because of that, I was like, wow, I'm so glad I'm on this team. This has been such an amazing experience because I can actually look up to someone that I can learn a lot from. Everything comes to an end, of course. My tech lead, my mentor, decided to switch and pursue a new opportunity that was better for their career. Of course, I'm very happy for them. But then I can quickly sense a huge shift in dynamic of the team. We now all have to fill in the shoes. But I start questioning now do I even want to be on this team anymore? The person that I looked up to so much left. And that made me feel like maybe I need to leave the team as well. Because the person was so close to me, not just a mentor, but also a friend, a really good colleague, it's kind of like I feel not just attached to the project, but also them. And over time, I realized they were actually more important to what the project I was working on. Because I knew for a long time, hey, this project isn't what I want to do, but because of the fact that I can learn so much from them, I was able to stay for longer. Try not to be so attached to a tech lead or mentor. It's okay to have the mutual connection, but they shouldn't be the reason why you're working on a certain project. Because at the end of the day, people will shift, people will move. And the moment they move, what's going to happen? If they were the only reason why you were sticking around, is that really a good reason? That's something like that I had to deal with for a period of time after they left. And that's also when I decided, okay, now it's time for me to move on as well. The second thing I kind of want to talk about is kind of like both sides. One is to not be so attached to your language. But two, also don't just jump straight into something completely nuanced without doing some of the homeworks. So for example, in software engineering, of course it's good that you know something really, really well. But a lot of times when you're switching companies, when you're switching teams, the project might be really exciting, but the tech may not always align. And in situations like this, would you still be committed into joining those teams? Or would you be deterred away because the technology is so much more different? And for me, a lot of times I had amazing opportunities, but I was scared to pull the trigger because I had no idea of how to do some of those things. Like, I was a full stack developer, but I never used C++ as the backend. I mostly used Java. I didn't know if I want to pick up C++. So a lot of times I decided not to make the switch because the team was using C++. And at times I'm looking like, hey, maybe I should have taken on it. Because at least I had something that was on my side that I was familiar with. For example, I knew the Google infrastructure really well. I knew how to work the front end really well because the project was still full stack, so I will still have the opportunity to do JavaScript. And that was like my comfort zone. So it's not like I'm completely starting from the fresh. I have something that I can rely on, and then at the same time, I can spend time on the side to pick up C++. And I also did C in school, so it's not exactly the same, but I wouldn't be coming fresh. So at least that was something on the pro side. Now moving on to the second point. Don't switch too fast into some tech stack that you have no research about. I kind of made the mistake. When I switched the team into a mobile development role, I was like, oh, Android programming, it uses Java, sure, let's do it. But then I quickly realized, oh, the design paradigm, the design pattern, the coding style, it's all very different. The framework, the pattern, the code base, it's all very, very messy. And what happens is when you switch these internal teams or even external, depending on the level that you're hired, they have some sort of expectation of how fast you should be able to pick up some of the skills. So for me, I was the only Android engineer, so that made the learning process a lot harder. And at the time, of course, ChatGPT wasn't available. That would have made learning a lot easier. So the question becomes, you really have to do some research before committing into some of these newer languages. So I would really recommend, if you have to make a switch or complete tech stack, try to take one of those free Udemy courses or Coursera or whatever. Try to go through a simple project and see how it feels. And this can help give you some ideas like, hey, are you really interested in this? Like, will you hate your job after you accepting it? In a situation like this, I realized like I was over idealizing how much I might enjoy this, but in reality, like I actually didn't enjoy as much. So definitely learn from that. And the last thing that I regret, and I also know a lot of friends who feel the same, is the fact that negotiation. Like your initial salary, when I first started my job, I didn't realize I was getting lowballed a little bit. At the time, I asked for so many favors, and in exchange, they took away a lot of the bonuses that I was getting. So I thought, oh, I mean, they were doing me a favor, so maybe it's okay. But as I was working and I was performing really well, and at these bigger tech companies, salary is also very transparent. Like you can search up online. Internally, people also report it. So for a period of time, I was feeling like I was getting underpaid. And these type of emotion definitely have a burden and unnecessary effect on you. So I would say like definitely try to negotiate, because like if you at least negotiate it, you will feel a lot better than not negotiating. And definitely do homework on what's like a reasonable amount. Like for me, I was coming fresh out of college. That was like pretty much the first time period where I had these negotiations, and I had no idea how it worked. They don't really teach you in school as well. And I would actually think teaching a course on negotiating or understanding the software engineer salary compensation would actually be a really helpful additional courses that maybe some school can consider offering. So, and I feel like that's something that most people don't really talk about, and that can really have an effect. In order to avoid it, definitely try to negotiate as much as possible. So yeah, guys, these are some of the things that I wish, I did a little bit differently, knowing what I know now. And those are some of the regrets that I had throughout my software engineering career. I hope this was helpful and shine some light on how a software engineer might feel. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.